Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Today we're going to be going over the light armors in Fallout New Vegas. This one has probably been requested the most, and it's really cool to see as much love for light armor as there is in New Vegas. And honestly, all the armors are really good in New Vegas, at least each armor type, where heavy armor is definitely like the tank build, light armor has a lot of utility and is more like the crit build, although it can be surprisingly tanky, and medium armor is just a nice middle ground between the two. So let's go over each of these. There is a lot of light armor to go over, and let's start with our very first one, which is the Advanced Radiation Suit. I'm also just doing this in alphabetical order so I can keep them in some sort of order because some of these use the same model. Anyway, the Advanced Radiation Armor protects for 6, it weighs 7, which is really good. That's very lightweight, and the defense on it is pretty decent. 6 armor is fine for light armor. Doesn't have very high item health though. It does break really fast. So you're not going to want to be using this very often for actual combat. Mostly you're going to be using this for its additional effect, which is plus 40 to your rad resist. And that is a lot of rad resist, and this becomes a really good utility option to have, which kind of makes me want to put a utility tier for this, but I think I'll just keep it in the same regular tiers here. If you want to carry this around on your person, it is really good just for that, because there are a couple areas in New Vegas that have a high amount of radiation where the Advanced Radiation Suit can come in handy, especially if you don't have super high endurance too, or you're not using like power armor, or don't want to also be using power armor in conjunction with this. So I think the Advanced Radiation Suit I'm going to put into B tier. As armor, it's perfectly fine. As a utility option, it's really good, so I think middle of the road is perfectly acceptable for right now. Then we have the All-Purpose Science Suit. There is only one of these. You do get this at the end of the Come Fly With Me quest with the ghouls, or at least sort of at the end of it. You can find it at the bottom of the facility that it's in. This one has 13 armor to it, which is a lot of armor, and only weighs 2, which is surprisingly light. This is probably one of the best for weight to defense ratios, and it also gives you plus 5 science on top of all of that, and it has decent item health. 2 weight is really good, and I would put this one, I think, into A tier. I don't think I'd quite put it S tier. It's probably S tier in the early and mid game though. I think A tier. I think A tier is fair, but S tier easily for the early game, because it's not hard to repair this either, so that's fantastic. And if you have like jury rigging, then no armor is super difficult to repair, which is even better. Our next armor is the Armored Vault 13 Jumpsuit. This is one suit of armor that you can start with, assuming you have the Courier Stash DLC. This one also comes with the Weather 10mm, so that's kind of nice. This one protects 8, which is pretty good for light armor. It weighs 15, which isn't super heavy, and it has okay item health. Overall, this is all around a pretty decent light armor to use if you want to use it early. I don't think it's one of the best, but it's perfectly fine, so I would put this one into C tier. Up next is the Assassin Suit. The Assassin Suit is found in Dead Money. This one protects you for 14, which is quite a lot for light armor. Weighs 20 though, so it is very heavy for light armor. But it does give you plus 10 sneak, and that is really good. That's one of the highest sneak bonuses. I think it is the second highest sneak bonus out of any of the armors, besides the Sneak Suit Model 2 that was a medium armor, which gave you up to plus 27, which is just insane. This one isn't as insane. For Dead Money, it's one of the best armors that you can get there and use in that DLC. Outside of that, it still has some utility, even though it does weigh 20. I would still probably put the Assassin Suit into A tier, though. It is really good. Maybe not S tier, maybe on a sneaking assassin crit build that's either melee. I guess melee would probably be the best, or unarmed would be the best, since then you can get close and you still have decent tanking stats. It might be S tier. On like a sniper build, A or S tier too. On every other build, still probably A tier. Then we have Caesar's Armor. Caesar's Armor you can only get from Caesar, so you gotta murder Caesar if you want to get this. Or potentially you could reverse pickpocket him. I'm not sure, I haven't seen anybody do that, but that might be a possibility too. This one protects you for 5, it only weighs 3, and it has 2 bonus effects besides you counting also as a legionary member. You get 5 survival and 5 speech. 5 more speech is really good, 5 more survival is kind of whatever, that isn't a huge deal. Defenses on it are perfectly fine for light armor. It's nothing crazy, but I think this is like another C tier. Maybe above this because the bonuses are kind of useful. And if you want to have like extra speech, this isn't a bad option for that. Then we have the Chinese Stealth Suit, which you can get 2 of these. These ones have 12 armor on them, which is pretty good. They do weigh 20, so they are kind of hefty, and they give you plus 5 sneak. That's pretty good too. It's not as good as the Assassin Suit, so I'm going to put this into B tier. But still pretty good. Defenses on it are perfectly fine, and plus 5 sneak is pretty good. It also arguably looks a little bit cooler than the Assassin Suit, but the Assassin Suit is better than it overall. Then we move on to all of the courier's dusters, which there's 4 of them. These dusters you get at the very end of Lonesome Road once you've completed the DLC. You can get one of these based on whichever faction you decided to nuke or to not nuke. So the first one that we have is the Courier's Duster, which is Blackjack. All of these have the same stats, but they do have different modifiers to them. So these have 13 defense on them, which is a lot of defense for light armor. Only weigh 3. With the Blackjack Duster, which is the first one we're going to talk about, you get +1 luck and +30 poison resist. +30 poison resist doesn't really matter, especially once you've already beaten like Lonesome Road, because there's probably not going to be a whole lot more enemies that you really have to worry about with poison. +1 luck is pretty good though. That is really, really nice. I'm going to put this one into S tier because I think it is one of the best armors. I don't think it's the best of the courier jackets here, but it is really good. Like +1 luck is really, really nice. Our next one is the Fighting Chance one. This one has the exact same stats. They also all have tons of health too, which is a big plus for them. This one gives you +1 strength and +15 action points. This one's amazing for a melee build, and I would also put this one right up into S tier. It's really good. Our third one is the Great Bear. This one gets you +1 endurance and +25 carry weight. Very useful for the utility of it and just more tankiness, so also another S tier. And then the last one you get is Old World Justice, which is +1 agility and +30 rad resist. Also really good. +1 agility is fantastic on every sort of build, and then plus rad resist is awesome. That's just basically the advanced rad suit on top of this, so also S tier. All of them are really, really good. You do have to go all the way to the end of the Lonesome Road and complete the entire main quest to it, but it is definitely worth it, and it's probably one of the best light armors in the game overall. Then we have the Dead Horse Stalker's Armor. This weighs 3, it protects you for 5, and it gives you +5 sneak. That's also pretty good. It's not going to be as good as like the Chinese stealth suit, just because this gets you more armor, unless you really don't care about that and you just want the weight. So I think I'd also put this B tier, just because sneak is pretty useful as a stat, and if you want to use it, well, you know, maybe I'll put it like into C tier. I don't think it's better than like Caesar's armor. Caesar's armor is pretty useful for what you get out of it, and you get more effects from it, so yeah, probably C tier as well. Up next we have the Explorer's Gear. This is another unique armor that you can only get from one particular person during the Remnants quest, so Arcane Ganon's quest. This one has 8 armor on it, which is pretty good, 3 weight, also very good, and it also has some bonuses of +2 melee weapons and +2 guns. That's all around really nice. If you want a lightweight armor that gives you bonuses, this one is a really good choice, and I'd probably put it up into B tier. Up next, this is going to make more sense because Geckobacked leather armor comes before leather armor. But let's do leather armor first, and then we'll do the Geckobacked versions of it, and we'll just do all the leather armors right here. So first up, we have regular leather armor. This protects you for 6, which is nice, and it weighs 15, so it's not going to be as good as some of the starting armors, but it is pretty decent, and it repairs a lot of starting armors, which is nice. It also has okay item health, and if you don't have the DLCs, or at least the extra DLCs, this is a really good early game option for just having some sort of armor that gives decent defense without it weighing a ton. Regular leather armor, I would say, is like the most C tier of the C tier armors. It is perfectly fine. The reinforced leather armor is even better than this because this one weighs the same. It weighs 15 as well, but it protects you for 10, which is a pretty big bump in terms of defense overall. Has good item health, can be repaired with regular leather armor, and this one is just like the regular leather armor, like the middle of B tier. It is perfectly fine. I guess I'd put it like right here. Perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. Then we have the Geckobacked leather armor. This one you can make at any sort of campfire so long as you have the Honest Hearts DLC and you have all the materials for it. This one raises your overall defense to 10 with still keeping the same 15 weight, but it gives you +15 to your fire resist, poison resist, and rad resist. That is really nice. That is just a straight upgrade from reinforced leather armor, and I would put the regular leather armor Geckobacked up into B tier, probably on the higher end of B tier. Maybe not as high as like the Chinese stealth suit, but very high up there, pretty much on par with it. And then the Geckobacked leather armor reinforced is even better because this gives you 15 defense, which is a lot for light armor. Weighs 18, so it is one of the heftier light armors, but not too much, and it gives you all the same bonuses of the last one, giving you fire resist, poison resist, and rad resist, and it also still has a lot of item health, even more than regular reinforced armor. And I would put this one like probably at the top of A tier. It is really, really good. Maybe not as good as the assassin armor. Maybe I'd put the assassin armor up there, but very close to it. Better in defense overall, slightly, and it has some pretty useful effects. Fire resist can be good against certain enemies. Poison resist doesn't usually matter that much, and rad resist is just a nice bonus. And then being able to repair this with just regular leather armor is super nice as well. Then we have one more leather armor, which is the lightweight leather armor. This is part of the Courier Stash DLC. You can get this. This also comes with the caravan shotgun. This one protects you for 8, so it's in between regular leather armor and lightweight leather armor. And it only weighs 10, which is great. That's actually fantastic. This armor is probably the best starting armor out of any of the starting things, unless you want to just rush to a particular armor set. And I would put this one like high up into B tier, because it falls off compared to like the other leather armors. It's going to fall off for like reinforced leather armor. But it's better than regular leather armor, and it's better than basically all the other armors early on. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, there's still one more leather armor to talk about, sort of, and this is Gladiator Armor, which can only be really obtained through one sort of mini quest that you do with Caesar's Legion. It's still in the game, so I figured I would kind of just throw it in here. This one does give you +1 agility, which is nice. This one weighs 15 and it defends for 12. All around, that's really good stat line, and this is pretty decent. Again, you're only going to use it for this one quest, but I would still say it's like B tier, and at least you're on even footing with the person that you're fighting, since they also have... Actually, they have the slave gear, don't they? They don't have gladiator gear, so you actually have slightly better chances against them, which is nice. With all that out of the way, let's move on to the Great Khan Armor. The Great Khan Armor does count as you being part of the Great Khans if you want to wear it, and first up we have the Great Khan Armored Leather. This is the strongest version of the Great Khan Armor, and this one protects you for 8, it weighs 7, and it has average health. Overall, this one's like a very solid C tier. It's perfectly fine as an armor. Being part of the Great Khans can be kind of useful for certain missions, especially involving the fiends, so they don't try to kill you, at least during one part of the mission, and the stat line is okay enough. It's nothing crazy. Then we have all the other Great Khan armors, which this includes the simple armor, the soldier armor, and the suit, because they all have the same stat lines, so they are all 5 armor overall and 7 weight. Nothing else really to talk about. They're really not that great, and I think this is our first D tier light armor. I don't think it's really worth using, because the leather is just better if you want to be dressed as a Great Khan, and it weighs the same and it does all the same things. It's just it's stronger, but even then it's still not going to be an amazing armor overall, so yeah, just not weight great. Then we've got the Hazmat suit. The Hazmat suit you can get in Old World Blues. This is kind of a unique, well, this is a unique armor too, and this one is kind of cool. This one protects you for 11, which is different. It also weighs 18, so it is kind of hefty, but defense is pretty good. It does give you a +85 to your poison resist too, which sounds kind of useful, but again, most enemies aren't hitting you with poison. It's basically Cazadors and Rad Scorpions, which if you really hate those two, this one can be decent, or if you want to take it to Honest Hearts where enemies can put poison on their weapons, this one can be a bit better, and it has decent defenses all the way around. But I think this is probably also like another B tier, somewhere in the middle. I think it's perfectly fine. It looks really cool, because it's the Ghost People's outfit, and the helmet is pretty cool, but we're just going to be talking about the armor itself, not the helmet and its effects too. We'll leave helmets and stuff for a different list. Then up next we have Joshua Graham's armor, which this is probably one of the best light armors in the entire game. This one gives you 15 defense, which is a huge amount for light armor, only weighs 8, and it also comes with the unique bonus of giving you +3 crit chance, which we've talked about crit chance before, and crit chance is insane in Fallout New Vegas. It is one of the best effects in the game. 3% is huge on any build, with the exception of explosives, which you probably won't be using, and to be fair, you're probably not going to be using light armor with explosives in general. You're probably going to be using like heavy armor, just so that you don't blow yourself up with it, or medium armor, so that you can get a lot of defense and bonus effects with it. So yeah, Joshua Graham's armor, top of S tier, one of the best armors, one of the coolest looking armors too in my opinion. And up next we have all the Legion armors, because all of them count as light armor too. So our first one is the Legion Explorer armor. This one, all of these do let you dress as the Legion, so that's kind of a bonus or a con depending. The Legion Explorer armor gives you 4 armor and it weighs 10. That is not very good, and it doesn't have any other effects, and it doesn't have like super high health. So Legion Explorer armor to D tier, it's not good, don't use it. There's better Legion armors than this. Our next one is the Legion Praetorian armor. This one's quite a bit better. This one's 12 defense, 12 armor, and better item health. So good defenses all the way around, okay weight, doesn't have any extra effects, which is kind of a negative, but it has high enough armor for it to probably go up to, yeah, probably like B tier, on the lower end of B tier, because I don't think you're probably going to take this over some other ones unless you just really want to dress like them, or you really want to be disguised with Caesar's Legion. Our next one is the Legion Prime armor. This one protects for 8, and it weighs 15, which is okay stat line. It's very similar to like leather armor, but it's Legion gear, so better than leather armor. Worse than like the leather lightweight armor or the leather reinforced armor. So I guess I'd put it somewhere around here. It's perfectly fine. Then we have the Legion Recruit armor. Protects 6, weighs 12. Not really that great, especially when we just talked about the Prime armor, which is better, and the Praetorian armor, which is better. This one's probably also going into D tier because no other effects to it, so I guess it's the same stat line as like leather armor, so maybe I should put it here. It's just that you don't really get much more bonuses than that, so okay, below leather armor, but maybe not D tier. It's not as bad as like the Explorer armor is. And then we have the Legion Veteran armor, which is 10 defense, 16 weight. So not as good as the Praetorian armor. The Praetorian armor is the best of these, but this one still is decent stat lined. And I would probably put this one also at like the low end of B tier. It's perfectly fine. If you want to wear this up until you can get the Praetorian armor, great. You could always wear something stronger than these, but they're okay overall. Nothing too crazy, but they're all fine. Our next light armor is the Marked Scout armor. This can be found in the Lonesome Road. Sometimes the Marked Men will have this, and this one is kind of like the Legion armor of it, which we sort of talked about that in the medium armor last time, where most of the armor there is either Ranger, NCR, or Legion of some sort. This is like the lightweight Legion armor of it. This protects you for 6, weighs 15, okay stat-wise, has okay item health, and gives you +2 sneak and +1 agility. That's all around pretty decent, actually. This is probably one of the better Marked Men armors, sadly, and it's still not even that great. Like, I'd put it like middle of C tier toward, well, lower towards C tier, somewhere in there. It's fine enough, but probably not going to be your go-to pick for sneak or agility or light armor in general. But if you do get it early on enough, since you can go to the Lonesome Road and come back, not going to be a terrible armor to have. And you can also just find some corpses of marksmen laying around, so you don't even necessarily need to kill them. Then we have all of the Merc outfits, which this is the Mercenary Adventurer, Charmer, Cruiser, Grunt, Troublemaker, and Veteran armor, because they all have the same exact stat line. They all protect you for 1, which is pretty bad. They weigh 8, which is not very good, and they have low item health. They do have bonuses though, where they do give +2 melee weapons and +2 guns. These ones are like the bottom of D tier. You probably shouldn't wear these. The clothing is usually better than these. Weight to defense ratio is just bad. Having 1 more armor is just not really that great, especially when some of these other armors, even down here in D tier, give you more defense than that. +2 melee weapons and +2 guns also probably isn't going to matter on any sort of guns or melee build, or even a hybrid build at any point, because you're likely going to be putting points into them. So getting that slight more bonus just isn't enough. Taking like different chems would give you more. Taking buff out, taking psycho would get you way more value than just putting these on. And I would not recommend the Merc outfit for anybody. Speaking of outfits that I wouldn't really recommend for anybody is the NCR Trooper fatigues. This one gives you 2 defense, 1 more than the last armor, but this one weighs 26. And it has no other effects other than that you can pretend to be the NCR. This is the absolute bottom of D tier. This one is even worse than these. The armor just sucks. I mean, it's good to carry these around, sort of, because NCR armor does count for repairing other things, which is good. But you don't want to carry that much extra weight on top of this. And the defense is absolutely horrible with this. It does actually have decent item health though, funny enough. So it takes a while to break. It has that going for it, I guess. Other than that, it's just awful. Then we have the Powder Ganger armor, which is actually okay. The Powder Ganger armor does still come with the con or pro of you being dressed as a Powder Ganger. This protects you for 5, it weighs 8, and that's the only effects it has. That's not really that great stat line, but it's okay. It's about the same as the Great Khans. Actually, no, it's worse than the Great Khans. It's about on par with this Great Khan armor. Yeah, this goes also into D tier. It's pretty bad. Better than some of these, but still pretty bad. Then we have the Radiation Suit, which the Radiation Suit is kind of more of a utility suit similar to the Advanced Radiation Suit. This one gives you 4 defense, only weighs 5, so it's not super heavy, and it gives you +30 rad resist. It's going to be outclassed by the Advanced Radiation Suit if you do get it, because you're not going to care about those extra 2 weight that this one weighs, and you are going to care about the extra 10 radiation resist this one gives you. It also doesn't have as much defense or as much item health. This one breaks really fast, so this one would be like C tier. It's fine, it's okay if you get it early on, and it's fine to carry around a suit of radiation armor, or a radiation suit with you, so that you can go to some of the more irradiated areas. But again, there's not a whole lot of them in Fallout, so you don't need this on you all the time. Then up next, we have the Raider Armor. There is multiple sets of Raider Armor, but these all have the same stat line, so once again, we're just combining it into one single Raider gear. So this is the Badlands Armor, the Blastmaster Armor, the Pain Spike Armor, and the Sadist Armor. All of these protect you for 4, which is really not that good, and it weighs 15. They also have no other effects on them. So Raider armor also into D tier, below the Legion armor, above the Merc armor. Our next armor is technically in the game, but you kind of have to spawn it in, so this one's a little bit cheating. This one is the Regulator Duster. This one is the technical armor, because there is a bounty hunter outfit that looks just like this, but that's counted as clothing. And it is honestly better than this armor. You can spawn this in though. This is what the Lonesome Drifter has on him. And this one has 0 armor on it, so you don't actually get any defense. It only weighs 3 though, so it's not too bad for like a clothing thing. And it does give you +5 guns and +1 charisma. Again, this one is kind of cool, but if you actually were going to spawn it in and use it, you probably want to actually use like the bounty hunter outfit, since that one is quite a bit better, especially for clothing. And this one would also go into like D tier. It's just not worth using even if you do spawn it in. In the regular game though, if you're just playing vanilla Fallout or if you're playing on console, unfortunately you can't get it then. But it is kind of a cool looking armor if nothing else. Moving on to some other cool looking armor, we've got the Sierra Madre armor. And the Sierra Madre armor is pretty good. This defends you for 16 and weighs 15, and it also has very high item health. This is just an all-around fantastic set of gear if you want to go with a light armor tank build, which sounds kind of weird because you might be thinking like, I want to put the heaviest armor on for a melee tank. But there are some skills that work with light armor, with light touch and with travel light, which are both really, really good for a melee and an unarmed build, which you want to get really close with. So that makes light armor tank builds actually pretty viable in those particular settings, and it still has good defense, so it can still protect you. The regular armor, I would say, is high up into A tier. It's just one of the best for defending yourself with just light armor on in general. And then we have the advanced version of this, or the reinforced version of this, which you can only get 2 of. But this one has a huge amount of item health. It protects you for 18, which is the highest amount out of any of the light armors. And it weighs 17, so it's still good weight to armor ratio. This one is like the best if you want to go with a lightweight tank build. And I would put this one also high up into S tier. It is very good. Our next armor is the Soros outfit. This is both Soros outfits because they have the same stat line as well. This weighs 2, it protects 2. It has low item health, and they both give you +5 survival. This one's just not that great. Yeah, this one's also going to go into D tier. It's not awful, though, so I'm going to put it like here in the middle, because at least having +5 survival, you could carry this around with you if you don't have max survival, and you could make recipes with it. So it does have some little niche to it. It's just it's not a super common niche that most people are going to be using it for, unless again you're going with like a particular character build, because if you're going like caveman build, this is probably one of the best ones for that. Then we have the spacesuit. The spacesuit is kind of a unique armor, sort of. This one defends for 10, which is really good for light armor, weighs 7, also not bad, and this also comes with a +40 rad resist on it. This one's great. This one's really good. If you want still good armor but more item health, and you want the bonuses of like the radiation suit, this one's really, really nice, and I would put this one high up into A tier. It is very good. Our next armor is the Tribal Raiding Armor. This one you get with the Courier's DLC as well, so you can start out with this. You also get the Broad Machete with this one, which is pretty awesome. The Tribal Armor, though, is really bad. This is the same exact stat line as Raider Armor with slightly more item health, and that's it. It only protects you for 4 and it weighs 15. So it is also going to go into D tier, but it's going to go above the regular Raider Armor in comparison, because it is better than that. Not much better, but it is better than it. Up next we have Ulysses Duster. This one you also get at the very end of Lonesome Road, and this is also considered one of the best light armors in the game, because this one protects you for 13, only weighs 3, so the same as all the other Courier Dusters. This one gives you +5% crit chance and +1 charisma. That is really good. That is arguably better than Joshua's armor, although I do like Joshua's better in look, and Joshua's does have more defense to it, but that's about the only bonus that it has over Ulysses, so this one is also going right up into S tier. It is arguably one of the best light armors in the game for just about every build, at least if you care about crit chance, so if you're anything that's not an explosive build, basically, and you want to use light armor. Then we have the Vault 34 Security Armor, which is also really good light armor. This one protects you for 16, it weighs 15, making it on par with the Sierra Madre Armor, which is already really good and at the top of A tier. This one is also going to go up to the top of A tier. You can find this one, I guess, easier, sort of, than the Sierra Madre Armor. It's not hard to find the Sierra Madre Armor, but Vault 34 you can run to at any point during the regular game. You don't actually have to go to the DLC to get it. And this one is fantastic for any sort of build, really. So long as you can get down there, the vault is kind of dangerous because there's radiation, there's golden geckos outside, and there is ghouls all throughout it. but you don't have to go that far into the vault to actually grab a set of this, and it can be really, really good for just defending yourself. Then our last two armors are slightly different. These ones are the white leg armors. The first one is the white leg's hide armor, which is the better defense one. This one gives you 7 defense and 5 weight, so it's not bad, and it also gives you 15 fire resist on top of that, which is kind of okay. Fire resist doesn't usually matter all that much. The white leg hide armor I'd say is like C tier, and then we have the white leg's outfit, which has almost the same stat line, being 5 weight, but this one only gives 5 defense, still has the fire resist, but has slightly less item health. This one I'd put it like the top of D tier. The white leg outfits just aren't really worth using, and most of these outfit things, I would avoid basically everything in D tier really, unless you're going with a particular character build, or you just want to have some outfits, like you're just carrying these around to have certain outfits. The rest I would just avoid, but everything up from there is pretty decent and can be really good armor, and there is some really strong armors in the light armor. There's so many armors here though. And that'll do it for all the light armors. We are going to be checking out like helmets and clothing as well for these tier lists, so be on the lookout for them. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and tell me your favorite light armors down in the comments below. Which ones do you enjoy using? I'll see you next time out there in the wasteland. Bye bye everybody.